Hey, what's up, ICT fam? All right, let's get into this recap. We are going to go over the last 2 days on ES. So we'll be covering the price action on Tuesday, the 24th, this candle right here. And then today's price action, Wednesday, the 25th, this candle right here. Real quick, just looking at the daily chart, we have the weekly high up here that formulated on Monday. Tuesday, we have this inside candle. And then today we broke below the previous day low, or Monday's low, into this fair value gap right here. And I measured out with just a fib tool the 50% of the daily fair value gap. And we came right down to there, and that's where we rejected from. All right, so let's dig in on the lower time frames. Okay, here we have the 1 hour chart. And if we take a look at Tuesday, we had this sell side liquidity run. Okay, we had this swing high right here, and this was our buy side liquidity run right at the end of day. One thing to note about this, we did not break Monday's high. However, on NQ and YM, this candle right here broke Monday's high on both those charts. So we had a SMT divergence, whereas the other two charts broke the high and ES did not. So that would be our clue as to why there was going to be confluence for a downside move. Okay, so we got the market breaks down after that, and then we get into the Asian session, okay, where we consolidated. I was looking to go short right above here, right in this fair value gap, and if we take a look at it closer, this was actually my target, was the bottom of this wick right here. And as you can see, price moved right into there. We have this swing low right here and a fair value gap. So we have a break in structure, energetically moves below, then we come back up and retest the bottom of this and then make a move lower. After our move lower, we're starting to target where our next sell side liquidity points of interest are going to be. So the first one that came to mind was these equal lows right here at Monday's low. We had a nice move down here, which we broke right through the previous day low. Now, Monday's low was also the beginning of this daily fair value gap. So I wanted to watch price action to see how that went around this area and see where it was going to go. Like I showed you on the daily, all we do is we take our fib tool and we measure that fair value gap for a 50%, which I had marked right here. And in the Discord, I told you guys that the second target was going to be this level right here, this 39.6450, which was the consequent encroachment of the daily fair value gap. As you can see, we dipped right below it and then went up for the rest of the day. There was a nice optimal trade entry right here to go long. And then as price is moving up, now we're looking for our low resistance liquidity runs. So we had these swing highs right here, which you'll see on the lower time frames, and we run up and run up through those. We do have a BPR area right here, okay? So depending on how aggressive price wants to be, we might have to catch this later, but we'll just mark it out for right now. So we have a nice BPR area right here. Here is our next point of interest for buy side liquidity run, and we work our way above this swing high. ultimately targeting, what do we have right here, 40.39.50. So right into this order block. Okay, so now let's take a look at how this all played out on the lower time frames in the 15-minute chart. All right, next we have the 15-minute chart. So as you can see here, we had consolidation through Asian Sesh, London Open, break high of the Asian Sesh right at this point of interest. So I had my paper trading short entry. London just a smooth working its way down. So right here we had getting ready for the New York Open. We had this fair value gap created. We have New York Open right here. We have the manipulation up into this fair value gap. This was another short entry I took. And then we had this nice big red candle moving down right there. This line, Monday's low, was the beginning of the daily fair value gap. So as we look at this candle, because it energetically punches right through, after this kind of rejected it, this next candle tells us that we're looking at the next target below just the entry of the fair value gap. If we would have had this candle right here and then maybe another green candle right here, which doesn't wick as low and then starts coming up, that would have been a sign that our entry was right at the daily fair value gap. However, it gets below, we have all this distribution going on right here. And with this distribution and manipulation, we get down to the consequent encroachment of the daily fair value gap, which is what set the low of the day for today. And now we're going to take a look at this area right here, and we're going to go over our optimal entry long that some of us got in, and we'll talk about that on a smaller time frame. All right, here we have this low of the day area from the New York Open into London close, and this is the 1 minute time frame. So here's our 15-minute fair value gap. We have our punch up into here, and then we have our move down. We create a swing low right here, okay, which we mark. Price runs back up, runs back down through here. As you notice, I marked out this fair value gap, especially because we had two more candles that line up with it, and this is going to come into play later. So I mark this fair value gap and I drag it all the way across. Okay. Price moves back down. We move back up. If you notice, the candle bodies perfectly stop at this fair value gap, creating a false sense of resistance, especially with these wicks. But then we have this energetic move down to the 50% daily fair value gap area. And what else do we have right here? We just broke sell side liquidity. Okay, so because we created a swing low, which was already a break in this sell side liquidity, okay, so now we have another run on it. We create another move down to a higher time frame point of interest, capturing sell side liquidity. We energetically move away, quickly up. We created a fair value gap right here. Price comes back down. This is going to be your smart money entry. So this is where institutional orders will enter after they've been distributing and manipulating price from the movement down overnight. Okay, so then price energetically moves out of that fair value gap, and then what do we have here? we're going to label this your break-in structure. Okay. And then right at your break-in structure, you have this fair value gap. Now, in the video I recorded earlier, my trade that I took, I labeled this fair value gap, price should not return to this level. Okay, these are good things to annotate because this is a breakaway gap that's breaking away from this down movement here, and it's breaking up out of there. So here's your breakaway gap. Here's your fair value gap that we're looking for our entry long. So we draw this out and extend it. Price hits it 1, 2, 3, 4, and has a nice energetic move away. We have our points of interest for where we can take profit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. We have reaccumulation and distribution. Market's reaccumulating orders all in here. Now, I also had written out on here that this fair value gap that we took all the way across, that acted as resistance right here. Now I want to see this fair value gap act as a support. And what do we have right here? We have a small wick into this area, and price never returns back into this fair value gap. So at this point, I can set my stop loss. I can move it up right here, and this should be a comfortable area to have your stop loss in profit, knowing that price should not return down to this area. So I set it just below this wick. After accumulation, we have our run on all three of these points of interest for our buy side liquidity, with one giant 1 minute candle that takes all three of them out. I had my entries were down here, and I had my take profit right here, and I took 90% off the table right here because I'm practicing taking the low hanging fruit and capturing that move. And then I let a runner run that I took profit above here. So nice energetic move up, come down, we create this fair value gap. Again, this is our breakaway gap as we go above these swing highs. And then here we have our accumulation again. Okay, we're accumulating right below this. So the market's now got orders from down here, and it's gathering more orders and selling some orders. So it's taking money and gathering more orders along the way. After this accumulation process, we have the run on this buy side liquidity. So we had this. This was another trade that I took, and I believe I recorded this one. Yeah, I did. Okay, so this first candle right here that comes up to it, again, it's giving retail a false sense of that there's resistance right here, that price has moved away from this level, and that this is giving you a line of resistance. So you notice after it hits that, it has several down candles coming lower, giving you a false sense that price is now running away from that area. Accumulates right here, and then we have the move that breaks this buy side liquidity. And this is what I was looking for. I wanted to see that energetic move break through there. If we keep moving to the left, we have this point of interest right here, and we have this point of interest. So all these swing highs got taken out by those two 1 minute candles. Okay, moving forward with our price action. We have this break of structure, okay, on a higher time frame. Price moves energetically away from there, creates this fair value gap, and we have an order block right here. So one thing to note is that when you have this internal liquidity move, because our higher time frame was down here, now we're in the internal of the PD array. Here's your order block. Okay, and then again, look what I have extended out over to the right. We had our 15-minute fair value gap, which I extended over, and what does it become? Now it becomes a point of support. Price comes back down into it, hits this order block, rejects out, and then moves on up from there. After it moves on up, then you can use this as a place to move your stop loss up into profit. Okay. And then we had our PM sesh run up. Which was a little bit slower moving, but it made its way up. We didn't take out this buy side liquidity. That's being saved for another time. Here's a nice little area to note. We had this run up, wicks down, runs back up above it, takes out this buy side liquidity, creates equal highs. I got into a position right here. Again, here's an example, and I'm going to share this with you guys because this is a mistake I made that I learned from. But this is a fair value gap because we're having that internal run. Price uses this order block right here to come back down to eventually working its way up and taking out this buy side liquidity, which this was another really good play right here. Very, very high probability setup in my opinion. Okay, let's take a look at the rest of the week moving forward. Here we are, we have the 4-hour chart with our PD array for this area. As you can see, here's our equilibrium. So I'm going to leave that right there. We just spent quite a bit of time down in the discount range. That was the daily consolidation you can see down there. And then we've been kind of poking above into the premium area, and we haven't hit the upper premium targets yet. So this would be a 50% retracement, or 62%, or 79%. Okay, so this last move down, you can see that price moved just below into discount, and the time before that we were deeper in discount. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for something that's going to target this first area in the premium. What we have is our weekly high. So anything above that's going to be targeting here, and then we have this swing high right over here. So right at 40.91.25, which puts us in between 50 and 62% retracement. As far as the bias goes, I do think that our higher time frame is bullish still due to a couple things. We have our seasonality. We just had all this consolidation down here in discount, and we're moving up into the premium array. And so we're getting nice retracements back into the daily fair value gaps and then moving quickly out of them. So that tells me that we have a bullish bias on those higher time frames, and I want to look to target our longs in our lower time frame setups. So I think that tomorrow we could see this weekly high get taken out, and it's possible that we could target this next swing high at 40.91 Friday, depending on how price action is tomorrow, unless we get a retracement back down here, and then maybe we only target this 40.48 swing high tomorrow. So we'll see, but we just kind of want to look for our long entries on the lower time frames when we have a higher time frame bullish sentiment. Okay, so we're going to drop down into the lower time frames. Go to the 15-minute chart. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to mark this out. Here's our buy side liquidity. We'll mark that. This right here, I like this right here because that's relative equal highs. So we'll label that. And this is what I do in the evening time. I just kind of go through the charts again, and I'm just going to look at my points of interest from the higher time frames on down. So constantly doing a top-down analysis. So if I look at what's going on in the Asian sesh so far, we had this little run up from Tesla. Then we had this swift down move, and then we've been rejecting this fair value gap right here. So if I look on the 15-minute time frame, what are some points of interest that I'm looking for as far as lows? We could possibly come down into this order block right here. I think ICT mentioned on his last video about these little stubby order blocks that he really likes these, so I'm going to mark this out. Okay. So we'll just mark that out, and then we really have a balanced set of candles all through here until we get down to this area. I believe on the 1 hour this was a BPR, so I just marked this out. Let's label that 1 hour BPR. Not sure if we're going to get to that tomorrow or Friday, but we'll just put it on the chart for right now. Alright, let's go down to a smaller time frame. Okay, so looking on the 5-minute chart here, here's our order block from the 15-minute chart. And looking left, I think these two are going to be 1-minute chart. And we'll go down to the 1-minute chart. Don't see anything on the 5. So this is what I do. I just quick look and I make my way down the time frames. We'll scan over here. Okay. So I have this order block on the 1 minute marked out. Okay. And then this breaker on the 1 minute I have marked out. I drug it all the way through. And if you notice again, breaker, fair value gap, this is what I talked about my entry. I entered right here. It came down to this order block, but then became a spot of support right here, and then again another spot of support. So by becoming two spots of support, I drug that out across too, because down here we have relative equal lows that I have marked right here, and then we also have relative equal lows right here. So if I mark out these relative equal lows, okay, and I look below this, because London's going to want to, if we're moving up, London's going to want to take out liquidity just below the Asian range. So we'll see what that looks like closer to midnight. But right below here, we have this fair value gap, and we have this order block. So I'm going to note this. But again, now we're looking at multiple confluences right in the same area on this 1 minute. So one of these might be correct, but this is stuff that I just note, and then I read price action when it gets around this area. So if I wanted to be conservative, right here is a equal low. I could target maybe below here to go long, coming up here next, and then coming up here next as more aggressive. So we'll look how price reacts to these areas later on. But with this equal high formed and the buy side liquidity above us, it looks like we have a good chance of finding some sell side liquidity below and then making a move higher. I'm bullish on the week for the next 2 days, and yeah, I think that's it. I hope this was helpful for you guys. Hope you guys learned something. You guys have a good night.